What's going on? No, I've been kind of half awake for a minute or two. Listening to you shuffle around. What's going on? I can't sleep. You kind of need to sleep. You have to get up very early tomorrow. Well, then maybe it's time for one of my boring stories. No, don't worry about that. You have to get up way earlier than I do, so I'll tell you what. If you can't sleep, you come here. Come here. And you cuddle with me. And I will think of a boring story to tell you. My boring stories always put you to sleep, so hasn't failed yet. Hey, don't you worry, okay? Like I said, you gotta get up way earlier than me, so. Okay, a nice boring story. Are you cozy? Okay. I ever tell you about when I was a kid and I used to go ice fishing with my dad? Okay, well then this will truly be boring. This should work. So when I was a kid, I'd always go ice fishing with my dad. And he had this one lake that he always wanted to go to. Like, it's the only place we ever went ice fishing. So in the middle of winter, I'd get all bundled up, get in this beat up old Dodge Ram pickup truck, and we'd start driving. So when we got out of the city, eventually we would wind up on this 2-lane road. It was just this puny road, 2 lanes, one going, one coming. And we'd fight for the radio. There was this crappy AM radio in the truck. So we'd go back and forth because he always wanted to listen to the country station. And at the time, I didn't want anything to do with country music, so he'd play a couple of tunes and I'd reach over and I'd push the button on it and I'd put it on the station that was playing the top hits of the day. And then we'd go back and forth because he'd go on, this is garbage, this is junk, I don't want to listen to this crap. And he'd put it back on the country station and I'd go, well, I don't want to listen to this crap. And we'd go back and forth. Now, along this highway, I always thought this was hysterical because we'd be driving along and it was farms, like on both sides of the highway. You'd look over to the right and it would be nothing but farmland, just wide open fields. Same on the left. And there would be these signs, like these big wooden signs that somebody had hand painted that said Bryce's Burger Bar. And it started, the first sign said, only 25 miles away. It's like 25 miles. And it was a big hand painted sign of like, a cartoon kind of hamburger, like this big, huge hamburger. Bryce's Burger Bar. Only 25 miles. We'd be driving along, and then you'd see another one, Bryce's Burger Bar, and it would have like fries or something like that. All of these hand-painted, big, big signs. Only 24 miles. And you keep going, and it just kept going on and on and on. Bryce's Burger Bar, great shakes, it would have a big painting of a milkshake. Only 23 miles. And it just kept going. So every mile, there would be another sign. And I'm a kid, and I'm sitting in the truck, and I'm going, this place must be incredible. Like, they went through all the trouble to put these massive signs up. I mean, they were massive to me when I was a kid, but they were pretty big. 22 miles, 21 miles, 20 miles. And it would all be like a painting of, a cheeseburger, a hamburger, a roast chicken, like all of this stuff. And we keep driving, and the whole time I'm thinking, this place must be incredible. And then when you got to the home stretch, so you'd be like 5 miles, 4 miles, 3 miles. And when you got to 2, they started doing them like every quarter mile. So it'd be like Bryce's Burger Bar, 1 3/4 miles away, 1.5 miles, 1 1/4 miles, 1 mile, and then they'd be like, you're almost there, 1/2 mile, 1/4 mile, you're almost there, just over the hill. There were all these signs that said this. And you go over this hill. Sorry. You go over this hill. You come down the hill. And then there's like every 50 feet. It's right here. Just a bit more. It's coming. Here it is. And you go by. And there is this puny little place that looks like a dump with a sign on it. Pepsi. There's a Pepsi logo on there, and it says Bryce's Burger Bar. And it's like, it's not very big. And I'm looking at it going, that's it? And then as you keep going, you look on the other side, and they've done exactly the same thing if you're going the other way. And I'm like, Dad, we gotta go. We gotta check this place out. And he says, I've been there. It's not that great. But Dad, we gotta go. So one time we went up, and I kept bugging him, and he said, fine. So we stopped in, and we went in, and it was this dumpy little place, and the burger wasn't that great. The fries weren't that great. But I got to go. So I was very happy that, because every time we drove up, I would just be seeing these signs. And I remember, like, I can picture what they look like. So we finally went in, and it was like, it was okay. No, it wasn't that good at all. The burgers were kind of like those fake steakette patties, or it was kind of like in a Swanson Hungry Man dinner, the Salisbury steak. It was like that kind of a burger. So I was excited just to get one, but it wasn't very good. But anyway, we would get up to the lake, and it was just him and I, and we'd walk out in the middle of this lake, and we had an axe and, a couple of other tools and our fishing stuff, our jigs. We go out and we chop a hole, and then you just park your butt there. We'd bring like crappy little stools, and we would sit there out on the ice and fish all day. And it was cold. I mean, the wind would be blowing on that lake sometimes, and it would feel like it was just taking your face off. And it almost didn't matter how warm you dressed, you would still be freezing. So when we were done, I was very, very glad to get back to the truck and put the heater on and thaw my feet and everything else out. I mean, it was fun, but oh damn, it was cold. So I guess my dad got tired of that. So one time we went out and he tried to make a windbreak. He just had this frame with plastic on it, so we could kind of put it up and it would sort of stop the wind. But it didn't really work very well, because the wind would change direction and you'd wind up just pushing this thing around to try to stop the wind. And nah, it didn't really work. So one year, he decided, okay, that's enough. My uncle was staying with us, and he said, well, why don't we just build a fish hut? So they did. Now, a fish hut, in case you don't know, is you're basically making a little house. You got the roof, the walls, the floor, and you put in a couple of benches. Now, the benches, you make your mattress for them out of styrofoam, because if you've ever sat on styrofoam, it gets warm. I don't know how, but it just kind of gets warm when you're sitting on it. But then they went deluxe, and they put an oil tank on the back and this little steel square stove, and you would feed an oil line into it, and it would drip on a fire brick. So you'd get it lit, and this thing would just keep going by just dripping oil on this fire brick. So we had a stove. We had little windows in there, the benches, and then you cut 2 holes in the floor, and you have a cover on it. So you bring this thing up on a trailer. You drag it out on the ice with a snowmobile, because you've got sleds on it. You've got skis on it to get it out there. Then, guys help you get it off. You set it up. You cut out your holes in the ice, the 2 square holes, and you sit the hut over that. So when you go in, you take the covers off, and there are these 2 rectangular holes in the floor and in the ice. And the ice was so thick. It was so thick. And when you look down the hole, you could see schools of fish swim by. You could see so deep, because the sun was illuminating all of the ice. So when you were in the hut, if you closed the windows and it blocked out all of the light, it was almost fluorescent, like the light that was coming out of these holes. It was crazy. And we'd have the stove going. It would be warm. We would get it so warm in there that you'd have to open the door just to cool it off, because it was so warm. It was crazy. And we used to go up there all the time. And it didn't really matter how much fishing you got done, because we'd sit and we'd talk and we'd just have a nap on the styrofoam lined benches. And you'd get a fish once in a while. Oh wow. Pull up the fish. Now we got dinner, And one time he said, "You want to stay overnight?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" I thought this was a huge deal. We're going to stay overnight in the hut. Oh my God, this is going to be amazing. So we stayed, we finished fishing, we made dinner, we cooked the fish that we had, and we had dinner. And then it got late enough. He's having his beers, and I'm having my pop, and it's time to go to sleep. So we go to sleep, and I'm lying there, and we're on the ice, and it's dead quiet. You can hear a little bit of wind once in a while, but for the most part, it's just absolute silence. And then, out of nowhere, I hear something. And it sounds like, almost like thunder, or like some kind of cracking, or something like that. And it's coming closer, and closer, and closer. And then finally, it gets to us. And it just goes right past and keeps going. I am freaking out. I'm Dad, what the hell is that? He wakes up out of his half beer buzzed sleep and says, "Don't worry about it. It's just the ice cracking." And I said, "The ice cracking? What, are you kidding? Are we gonna sink?" And he's laughing. He goes, "No, shut up, go to sleep. I'll show you in the morning." Okay. I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning. I go out, and I see this crack in the ice, maybe about 3 inches wide. Now, this ice is like almost 2 feet thick. It was a pressure crack. But the crazy thing is, you could walk up to it, and there would be water in the crack with just this really thin layer of ice that you could poke your finger through. And I was like, this is wild. And he explained to me, it's a pressure crack. The ice expands or does whatever, and has nowhere to go, and it goes crack. So it's not dangerous or anything, it just happens all the time. But it was the first time that I ever encountered that, and I was like, oh wow. So we had, the rest of our day fishing. And then we'd go back, and the hut would stay there until the thaw, till spring started to thaw, and then you'd have to go out and get it and bring it back. And it lived in our backyard when it wasn't on the ice. But it was so much fun. Just going up there, hanging with my dad, fighting over which songs were playing. Just fishing in the hut, killing time. There was no phones, no distractions, no nothing. We'd just sit in the hut and we'd talk. And if we weren't talking, we were just thinking, or just listening to the radio, or going out, walking around the hut, and just standing in the middle of this lake on the ice and looking out and going, wow. And then you'd start to freeze your butt off, so you'd go back in the hut where it was nice and warm. And it was a lot of fun. And we do that all the time. Like as soon as it was ice fishing season, we would go up. And that's what we do. We just hang out, maybe catch some fish, maybe not. It was just a really cool way to get away and relax and just breathe in the air, enjoy the activity of doing pretty much nothing, except maybe hauling in the occasional fish. But I always remember how much fun it was, and I always remember the illumination of the ice coming from these fishing holes. It was incredible. The amount of light that would come out of this was crazy. And it was all just the sun hitting the ice and lighting it all up. Definitely a good memory. And that was such a good feeling too. Because when we started going up in the hut, no matter what I was doing outside, you always had this feeling like you were safe and warm. Nothing could bother you. The elements couldn't get to you. Kind of like this. It's raining outside. There's thunder. It's lightning. But you're safe in bed, curled up with me. Nothing can hurt you and nothing can bother you. You can just sleep. I'm guessing you've